Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. This is BSL 17 Hasuleague quarterfinal between Ranged and Bayagster. Upper left hand corner we have, or actually I can do color, no I cannot. Upper left hand corner we got Ranged starting as the Midnight Blue Protoss. He has shown some extremely strong play up to this stage. Bottom right hand corner we got Bayagster starting off as the Pink Protoss. Bayagster did a pretty good job making it through the rounds up to this stage, throwing some off-kilter stuff versus Zerg, trying to remember his play for PvP. Ranged, on the other hand, we've seen his PvP, and it has been fierce. This is going to be on Retro, by the way, if you guys are wondering about the last match with Zazu. I believe the games were played out of order, however, it is still best of 5. So either they played a bonus game thinking it was best of 7, or I got the replays out of order. It might have been the latter, but I'm just going to leave it as is and proceed. And proceed. Pylon down for both players, so between these two, we'll see how it plays out. This is on Retro. It is cross positions. Retro is one of those, it's a map where it can lead to some players taking a third. In PvP, I think it might end up having a higher likelihood of taking a third in comparison to other maps, simply because yes, you have the ramps here, but Dragoon's holding the high ground with Zealots, and Reavers also holding that position. And heads up play might end up to a little bit more macro-oriented map. Being that it's cross-position, we could see more macro-oriented play. It looks like we're seeing an Assimilator and Gateway. Excuse me, on both ends. I have a bit of a cough. Ranged doing his due diligence and checking mid-map. I will say one thing, and he's going to end up a little bit behind economically. Bayagster doing something that Quark actually advocates, which is keeping that probe scout and scouting either with an initial Zealot, initial Dragoon, something down those lines, because you can end up significantly ahead, particularly on 4-player maps, with the fewer probes. And I almost wonder if it comes down to particular scouting aspects as well, as to whether you're able to repel initial 2-gate builds, proxies, things along those lines. Initial Zealot being constructed on both ends. Bayagster also going to check the middle. That's kind of another aspect of this map, is there's just a lot of area to build. But is he going to go get lucky and go, no, okay, he's just going to check the middle and go top right. It looks like he's going to end up scouting somewhat later. The first Zealot's out. I don't think it's going to be in time to blockade this ramp. So Ranged is certainly going to have, and he might have timed his scout that direction. He's going to have that informational advantage. Going to see that side at his core. Critically is going to be able to hang out after that a bit of time to provide some information. Look at this, recognizing that it's a scout denied, going to go with Citadel of Vadun himself to try to exploit his opponent's lack of information. It's going to be very critical that the Zealot holds the ramp, because if that probe manages to sneak in, fake range on Bayagster's part, so Bayagster also thinking potentially doing the same. So it could be an interesting play, and if it comes down to it, Ranged is going to have the advantage there overall. Probe's taken 2 hits. Critical moment, does the probe get in? No, currently gets denied. There's another probe alongside. And it looks like Ranged also is going to be able to sneak his probe out. So this is delayed time. Now, is it Robotics Facility? No, also Citadel of Vadun. And in the bout of Dark Templar versus Dark Templar, Ranged is going to end up ahead. Probe sneaking its way across. Bayagster still wants to get that scouting information, so is leaving that probe on the low ground. This is actually a huge moment. Ranged doing a great job of selling this, moving out as though he's going to go ahead and grab a natural expansion. And Bayagster seeing the movement to the low ground, I think, we'll see if he tries to get the confirmation with the Dragoon. By then it might be too late though, because the Templar Archive's just about finished. And no, okay, so he's got the Dragoon at a lower position. 2 Dragoons and a Zealot now making their way forward. And actually this might be, okay, no, there's the Templar Archives and a Forge dropped as well. No indication of anything anti-opposite side. This is going to be a huge moment as the Dark Templar's in construction. The Dragoon trying to move up to confirm whether there's a natural expansion or not. It's taking free hits, which means Bayagster doesn't want to engage this. He's got a lot of these troops scattered. He is dropping a pylon to the natural expansion. If he drops a pylon and a forge, he still might be in this. And keep in mind, it's cross positions, so it takes a long time for these Dark Templar to get cross map. That Dark Templar gives Range enough map control. We can go ahead and plop down that Nexus. It looks like a photon cannon is warping in, and that should be in place before that Dark Templar makes its way cross map. Now, does Ranged have the where? Okay, he's dropping that Forge a little bit later. He has the wherewithal. We have a Dark Templar being constructed opposite direction. Is he going to have that cannon out in time? It's kind of one of those, whoops, both of us did the same thing sort of thing, although range is going to end up with a bit of an advantage because that Nexus coming down a lot more rapidly than his opponent's Nexus. However, the cannon warping in, so it's not going to be endgame. Does the Dark Templar still get in, though? No, it is wiped out immediately. High Templar being built alongside. And we have 2 photon cannons being built from ranged opposite side. Bayagster actually up a significant amount of workers because of the double cannon drop, and it looks like a pause in probe production otherwise. He's not gonna, we might be able to salvage the his Dark Templar, but right now has a slight edge in workers. But if range just steps on the gas as far as probe production out of his earlier natural, he can close that pretty quickly. Right now, supply counts very close. The rapid mining also can play a big factor. We also have Psystorm being developed a little bit earlier, where I think we had a High Templar. I think we already have a High Templar out. No, we didn't. Canceled, maybe. Dark Templar waiting on the wings, presuming that there are cannons there. So both players needing to play defensively. It looks like we do have a High Templar out for ranged. So it has a so as far as army versus army, has a slight advantage in that regard, where he can blanket his opponent. Photon cannon being dropped in the main defensively, just in case there was a follow-up drop. I don't know that range is really going to be able to capitalize on this earlier storm, unless he goes for very aggressive storm drop. And as I was saying, excuse me, got that cough from the illness I've been fighting off. It comes and goes. Maybe I should go with the cough drop. See if I need to stop the cast overall. Excuse me. Ugh. Second gateway dropped. Internal to Bayagster's base. He's getting a shuttle out, so he might go for a drop of his own. Do we have a cannon in the main? Also, do we have observers? So we got the Dark Templar waiting. This could be a win condition here for Bayagster, being able to elevate that Dark Templar into the main. We have pylons in position, but again, no detection as of yet. Observatory just dropping. Now, ranged, unfortunately, with his game sense, going to be a little bit late on this one, I think. The Observer, I don't think, is going to be there in time. Bayagster is going to get those Dark Templar in the main. We do have a cannon warping in as well. Range just knows his time. He's got 2 Dragoons back here. I don't know if this is going to be in time or not, though. So the cannon's certainly going to warp in, but it could be dangerous otherwise. Bayagster, in the meantime, going to go ahead and get some gateways down of his own, but this is going to be the the big thing right here. So we're going to have 3 Dark Templar and a Zealot. The Dragoons see the shuttle. The shuttle's wiped out, so these units are stranded. The Zealot taking damage, but the Dark Templar is still alive and able to wreak havoc. Zealot's gone. Dark Templar looking for areas to get some damage done. Working on that gateway to the north. And are we going to see a counter Psystorm drop out of this? It looks like range scooping up potentially for a counter Psystorm drop. That gateway, dangerously low. The first Observer out. Is it going to be able in time to save the gateway, though? Big win there for Bayagster, able to take a gateway down. But does lose 2 Dark Templar for his efforts. Sees that a shuttle's out as well. Dark Templar hanging out the 6 o'clock just to see if another shuttle peeked out. We got a lot of defensive Psystorms for both players out on the front, but right now, it's going to be a minute before range actually needs to get something done with this drop, because right now he's just dropping that 3rd gateway. Sorry, he's got that 4th gateway online, and that, in theory, will give Bayagster, with equivalent economy, some opportunity to get some additional troops out. An Observer to the south is going to see this shuttle as it's incoming. We have a pylon blockaded. Is Bayagster going to react in time? Yeah, it looks like he's got a lot moving in to go ahead and take out this shuttle, and that's a big loss of gas. Looks like the drop still lands, but just ends up coating the Dragoons instead. So no Dragoon losses. Do they even get a little bit of base shield, but nothing else? Shuttle making its way to the north is going to be able to spot the 12 o'clock being constructed. Or at least in position to be constructed. Let's see if ranged is in position to react. He's got some cannons here defensively. The Dragoon's not quite making their way up. Okay, now moving up. There is a single cannon there. Probe scattering. High Templar drops. Able to get, looks like a probe comparatively. Ironically, though, range is actually still up a worker. And range, if he can go ahead and... This could actually be big. We got a Dark Archon, actually, to make the Psystorms a little bit stronger. Bayagster moving out to maybe try to grab the 6 o'clock. The Observer out of position, so the Dragoon's having trouble pathing. Actually, some misfire as well, so that's actually delaying the grab at the 6 o'clock considerably. The Observer finally figuring out what's going on. Able to reposition, but that Dark Templar actually doing a lot. A counter Phalanx, I'm going to call it a Phalanx this time, moving up to these Dragoons. There's actually more base health on these for range, and it looks like it's going to be 6 versus 8, which might be able to breach. More troops moving up with the High Templar, so basically range wanting to stop the 6 o'clock while he gets the 12 o'clock up, and he's looking for that for the game-winning advantage. The probe making its way into the 6 o'clock. Ranged is yet to peek in with his own observer to see what he's up against, but has moved his High Templar into position. It looks like he's going to try to face plant scout with the initial zealots. Sees a few Dragoons, and actually is able to walk all the way up. And that should be a canceled 6 o'clock base. Although focus fire on the High Templar. But no Psystorms expended. A big win for ranged. Going to be able to take out that probe as well. And now he can retreat, defend. And he's going to have a massive advantage with that 12 o'clock. That's going to it looks like we already had 8 gateways planted for Bayagster. But now these 8 gateways effectively are going to, excuse me, be all in construction builds unless he gets an amazing Psystorm down. Ranged all of a sudden has a massive supply lead as well. Several cannons at the 12 o'clock. Ranged again with the amazing game sense, cutting off the one opportunity. It looks like he's not going to be able to pick off the shuttle, but brilliantly recognizing the one counter opportunity would be a drop and that it would most likely be across that northern corridor. So immediately moved his troops to engage an army heading that direction, but catches the shuttle as a result. Amazing play. Is he going to go for a fourth? A fourth would be greedy. He knows he's denied the 6 o'clock. He just needs to pad and weather the potential storm. This is actually overproduction for Bayagster. He can't run the 10 gate. You cannot run 10 gates off 2 bases, as far as I know. That's just too much. Too much to keep things open. Range going to actually try to press his advantage. The Observer peeking over. Feedback on the High Templar, negating a potential Psystorm advantage. Observer only loses its life in counter and nothing else. Look, Observer's actually lost on both sides. A single Zealot peeking into the 6 o'clock, noticing nothing there. Another shuttle making its way across with 2 High Templar. This one has not been spotted by ranged or anticipated, so might be able to get in there, and that would be a big victory. Now it's been spotted. Troops scrambling back for range. He's already exited a lot of that probe. Looks like a High Templar. I think I heard 2 of them die, so it looks like they both exited, but didn't get a lot else. Where are we looking at on the weapons upgrades? +2 weapons versus +1 weapons as well. So if range can just maintain this advantage, get some map control, and make sure that a big bulk push from, and honestly, this positioning would be key, and just keeping some vision out to the left to make sure nothing sneaks through. It looks like a, I don't want to use the word phalanx again, a patrol of zealots running their way across, hoping to draw. I think this might be calculated on Bayagster's part to make sure that it doesn't end up in an enclosed map control situation, recognizing that he's potentially down on supply. This is his 6 o'clock's just now coming online. That's extremely late. More zealots scrambling out. Bayagster doing everything he can. It looks like range trying to hunt the zealots, recognize that they pocketed here, but this is leaving these zealots to march up to the 12 o'clock. We've got 4 cannons to defend and 2 dragoons. The dragoons blocking the ramp might be sufficient if they're able to react in time. The zealots now gathering up, careening into that 12 o'clock location. Range now responding. Unfortunately, his troops out of position, but at the same time, Bayagster not running into the lines to kill probes. The zealots getting very, very distracted. It looks like another cannon getting dropped, and that's going to provide the time for the zealots to get in to keep the probe count healthy. Ironically, also ranged down a few troops. I don't know if there's a Psystorm to the north. It looks like we have another shuttle making its way up. Are the dragoons going to get there in time? Okay, Psystorm drops some pretty solid defense from range against these drops. He's lost a handful of probes here and there, but he's got 4 bases up. The main's remaining healthy. He's got a sizable gateway count. I think it's 1 up on Bayagster right this second. Unless I'm missing a gateway at that. No, I'm not. He's up on upgrades. He's up on supply near 200. And now he can start bullying forward, especially because those zealots were expended. I don't know that they got a lot out of that. So, Ranged now pressing forward is going to go ahead and box his opponent in. We have the Dark Archon proceeding forward, wants to try to potentially pick off some High Templar. Doesn't look like it's going to have an opportunity to do so. Few zealots getting stranded there by Ranged. As far as group map control is going to regather and send a zealot out. Bayagster hoping to grab this bottom left, but I'm expecting Ranged to force this advantage. He's near 200 supply, which is usually the moment where it's like, okay, let's force some fights and maintain that advantage. Not that he needs to at the same time. I'm looking for him to actually just park some units here to the left and then just look to get a favorable engagement somewhere mid-map while simultaneously denying this bottom left-hand base. Also, I'm pretty proud that I'm like, yeah, this can turn into 3-base play both directions, and in fact turned into that. Another shuttle looking to scoot out from the bottom left. Again, Range's troops overcommitting here, bottom left. So they might be able to get a Psy Storm top right as probes are transferring. We have 3 cannons there, but not a lot else. Let's see if Range is able to react. Is able to pull probes, having trouble doing so. Empty Psy Storm initially, second empty Psy Storm. Again, Range with the beautiful reactions. Bayagster's has not been able to get anything with these Psy Storm drops, but he is able to preserve the High Templar this time. And exit, but critically he's missing this bottom left-hand base. And right now, he can't go out and attack Range, really. Ranged is maintaining, actually it looks like +3 weapons is finishing on both ends. Double Forge open for Bayagster, so if he can wait a while, maybe he'll have a slight upgrade advantage, but this is going up against 4 base production versus 3, which is a losing proposition. However, with Ranged now using troops to kind of pocket mid-map, if he can get a large army, push into 1, get some favorable Psy Storms overall, he could shift this into a victory, or if he can get some really nice Psy Storm drops at the 12 o'clock or the natural. The main is no longer a Psy Storm target because the resources are being expended on both ends. Looks like a shuttle was spotted there mid-map. It's now going to try to reposition. Few zealots getting caught. It looks like it wants to make its way to the 12 o'clock. Is Range going to have the opportunity? Okay, Range this time not able to dodge, so is going to lose some probes. Losing a lot of probes, actually, in the midst of that. That's actually, ironically, so that's putting Bayagster up in workers. But unfortunately, the timing of it is not the best, because this is still enough workers to saturate 3 bases, which is exactly what Ranged has. He's trying to work, although there's a probe sneaking here bottom left, and Range actually grabbing that base bottom left, starve his opponent out. Dark Archon moving out, looking for some High Templar targets, not finding it. That shuttle is empty, so it's just a scout right this second. Bayagster going to try to get some free Psy Storm, and actually able to mid-map. Looks like he's going to end up losing his High Templar in turn, but might have softened up that army on approach. And if Bayagster's going to do it, he needs to do it now. He's out at the main. His natural expansion is shortly going to be mined out, and he's been boxed out of any additional bases. As far as raw banks go, I think what he's hoping to do is get in a big fight and out macro in between, sending out another shuttle. But again, I don't know that these targets are really going to provide any sort of win condition now at this stage. It looks like they're also going to get spotted mid-map, and these are potentially now storms that would have been more beneficial in an open fight. I'm wondering if Ranged recognizes that, which is why he's a little bit less aggressive with his shuttle defense overall, recognizing he can lose a few probes with his current saturation. Yeah, less defensively, and I'm wondering if that's strategic again, where it's like, yes, go ahead and expend Psy Storms on my probes that I can refill rapidly, and I have bases to work with. Another good group Psy Storm, though, from Bayagster, but the situation is still the same. Bayagster needs to engage Range, where Range can just sit and starve his opponent out as things remain, and there's enough Nexus. Looks like we have an Arbiter out as well. There's enough Nexus. Looks like Recall also being developed from Range if he needs to breach. Actually, I'm wondering if Stasis would have been the better play here. Bayagster now looking for an opportunity to engage. Dark Archon being picked off early. High Templar able to get a bit of a whiff of a Psy Storm there from Bayagster. and a lot of the forward troops getting grouped. And this is Psystorm bait right here for range. If he can just go ahead and drop some, yeah, he's dropping some massive Psystorms in that gap. Nice counter Psystorm there by range, but also that Arbiter there, and all of a sudden Bayagster doesn't have an observer in position, and there was an overwhelming attack force there from range. You can just see the supply differential all of a sudden. I think that's both in refilling troops. Yeah, Bayagster going to GG, recognizing he doesn't have an option. Quick win. Game 1 goes to range. Hope you guys enjoyed it regardless. Thank you for listening.